Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We are so excited to have you here. My name is Chad Erickson, and I'm the Vice President of Sales and Strategy at MyAdvice. And I am joined by three of my favorite people, individuals and friends that I've gotten to know over the years. And we were able to pull together with all of our busy calendars, all three of us, well, four of us at the exact same time, and to bring to you what we think is a very, very important message, especially as we begin a new year. So much is happening and changing in the market. We're seeing a lot of shifts. We're still seeing a lot of misunderstandings. And with that, we wanted to really talk about how do you balance all this out when you're juggling so much? How do you really bring this together and really come to what matters most and identify that and then follow it and have that plan. And so today we're going to share with you some of the things that we have seen over that time. And so I'm excited to moderate that. As far as a few things as we kind of get kicked off today, this webinar is being recorded. So for those of you who are watching and want to watch it again after, you're going to get a copy of it. Or if you have team members or others you would like to have see it, they're welcome to do that afterwards as well. With that though, I do want to do some introductions. And so just looking at my screen and how everybody shows up, Robin, why don't we start with you and introduce yourself and your company?
Sure. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here and partnering with you guys all to share this. I'm Robin Dimond. I'm the CEO and founder of Fifth and Core. We are a marketing innovation company, and we specialize in content shoots, public relations, and organic social. We've been around for 4 years. That 2 weeks ago made us 4 years old. And so it's been super exciting as we've had a deep dive into this industry and really fallen in love with it more and more.
Thanks, Robin. Tami, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you again for having us. Pleasure to be here. And Pinpoint, I'm the founder and the creative director of Pinpoint Creative. We call ourselves a boutique branding agency. We are only in aesthetics. We have about 500 clients across the US and Canada and a couple of other markets. I'm in Seattle, so is most of my team. And literally between us, we have about 150 years of experience in the aesthetic industry. We do marketing as well, but not your traditional digital or social media or website marketing. It's all the other things that a practice really needs to get on down the road once a patient actually presents themselves into your practice and is in your chair for the first time. So event marketing, membership marketing, consultation, education, email marketing. So very different services in addition to the branding aspect, which is what we are mostly known for.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Tammy. And you've taken care of many of our clients, and we appreciate that. Michael, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys. Well, first of all, Robin, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Glad to hear you're on that next year. So, hi everyone, Michael Antosy. I lead practice growth consulting here with MyAdvice. As you can tell from the titles, I also work with Chad as well too. But we really organizationally, we focus on one main thing, which is helping to bring patients to the door and lead generation, and how the components of your digital strategy are really set up to be able to perform and to be able to make that run at your practice. We've been established since 1998. We have about 2,000 practices that we serve all throughout the United States. Really bring a lot of history and evolution of just seeing how digital strategies have constantly changed and evolved over the course of time to continually to connect patients with practices. Really where we see a lot of shifts and changes happening in today's age is really just because of AI and how that's really shifting not only just how patients find providers, but also to how practices are converting those patients into more leads and opportunities and into what we actually call profitable growth, which is more opportunities, more conversions, but doing all that without adding more cost. So really excited to dive in to talk a little bit more about some systems today and how we help some of our practices on the visibility front.
Thank you, Michael, and everyone for your introductions. So I want to start by asking a question to our group today. What is one thing that you see the practices are doing that is actually hurting their growth, but they think is actually helping? Who wants You want to go for, who wants to go first? Robin, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think there's three things. I was like, I jumped right in it. Sorry.
Go for it.
But I think there's three things that are really one
Okay.
in the PR and the social, it's chasing trends, but not having a strategy. So doing whatever they see everybody else is doing, but with like no strategy of what services they may be offering or who they're highlighting or what features. The next one is really not leveraging all the platforms. Everyone talks about Instagram and TikTok, but they don't talk about Pinterest and YouTube, LinkedIn, and how they all have a different way of bringing new clients to them and also helping their Google ranking. And then the last one is like one that's so gross and clingy, but they're using generic stock, and no one knows who the real providers are. And what sets you apart from being all your years of experience and your priding in your work if no one gets to see that work? And so I guess those would be the three things that are giving us all the ick right now.
I can see that. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of businesses. It's first, do you have a vision of who you are? And then do you have a plan? And then, as you kind of mentioned, are you sticking to that plan? But are you, yeah, what are you doing to really deliver and differentiate? I remember reading a book years ago, and I still have it on my shelf. It's called Differentiate or Die. And how many times are we just copying as opposed to really knowing who we are and what matters? So thanks, Robin. Anybody else want to chime in?
Oh, I would love to address that one as well.
Please
Because
go ahead, Tami.
it speaks to what you just said about differentiation. And I mean, I think the number one thing that's hurting practices growth right now is when they actually rush to do something, the moments that results start to dip for them without actually stopping to realign their brand message first. You know, when those phones slow down, we see practices go into reaction mode all the time with their campaigns, and they don't pause for message clarity. They kind of throw everything at the wall to see what sticks, you know, new offers, new messages, new platforms. And I think that speed might feel like productivity, but it usually ends up creating a lot of noise and maybe confusion in the market. And for me, in aesthetics especially, I think that, you know, that kind of urgency is a little bit dangerous because on the one hand, you're trying to, you know, invoke a sense of trust in patients to actually choose you to mess with their face, their body, you know, their wellness. And then on the other hand, your messaging looks, you know, maybe promotional, salesy, inconsistent, or just playing out a character for your brand. And, you know, when a brand feels rushed, patients are really going to notice that. I think a lot of practices that are successful actually do something that's quite counterintuitive to that. And they actually instead pause before they launch. And I'm not saying that pause has to be, you know, 3 months or even a month, but they take a moment to realign, you know, what is this campaign really for? What is the problem we're solving? To who? You know, kind of how do we differentiate ourselves with that problem and not devalue our services and our expertise? And most importantly, I think, is also what's the residual effect after that? Because after that click happens, that patient is going to be left with a feeling that is going to live on. And so being really cognizant of that. If you want me to share a case study to bring that home, I 100% can. I've kind of prepared a couple of case studies because we're visual over here.
Go ahead. That'd be great. Go ahead. You go ahead and share that right now, Tami. You should talk. I'm thinking of an old saying that says "slow down to go fast." I don't know if you've heard that before. And it aligns with that. And also, who cares how fast you're going if you're going the wrong direction? And so having that North Star, having that plan or that vision that Robin talked about, and then sticking to that plan is incredibly important. So tell us what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so this is a great case in point of a practice that actually did that has taken a pause. I mean, this campaign is literally launching next week. We didn't create the brand of Flycatcher. The CEO and the founder of this company is a very savvy marketing, you know, entrepreneur. And his practice is an all-male practice in Austin, Texas. And it's kind of like that, you know, mid-century modern meets old Hollywood meets 007 style brand. very unapologetic at, males, and, males is in particular who want confidence and swagger and magnetism, when they walk in a room, and they're not afraid to take risks. And so when they purchased a Get Hair MD device this last quarter, again, and if the flycatcher, by the way, it's down to the name, right? So it is actually a bird who puffs out his red chest. It's known for his song. Very bold, very memorable. So they purchased a Get Hair MD device, and now they have to, and it's not a device, it's actually a system, and they bought a territory, and now they have to fill seats and convert on hair restoration for men. And so rather than going into a campaign willy-nilly, they actually challenged us. They said, here's our brand. We want to see campaign creative, the possibilities, do it within our brand, because we're not going to launch before we consider options. And right away, they honed in on that, machismo, kind of that feeling of, magnetism and playfulness that their brand represents. And they knew with this creative that they would be able to have a PG rated version for some, medium, and then an R rated version for others. And they really paused all the way through putting this campaign together. So yes, there is a landing page, and that landing page is on brand for them. And the PG version is confidence you can feel, knowing that men are not going to convert just on one click. They have, a nurture ebook that they've done. And this is where they could have actually departed again from pausing, because Get Hair MD has an excellent patient portal, and they do have an ebook out there, but this does not match the brand of Flycatcher. It is not in their voice. It's not how they walk. It's not how they talk. So this would immediately have become a disconnect again in this campaign. So they very smartly repurposed that booklet. It now talks like Flycatcher. It's called the playbook instead of, an ebook. And it's an evergreen, piece that can be used with other campaigns. And now these people are dropped into their funnel, and they can use some of that racier marketing to get them further down the rabbit trail to come in and have, a hair matrix. And so, just kind of those two different styles that work, on social media. They can have more fun. They literally, I'm not kidding you, have these posters up in their urinals. So much fun. And, all the way down to the actual consultation, treatment plan. So it's just a really great, way of saying that urgency can often just create noise, but when you pause for clarity in your campaigns, they will generate leads, and they can build your brand at the same time. You don't have to trade one for the other. And when messaging is clear, I feel like your marketing works harder for you. Your leads are going to be better qualified. And most importantly, I think your brand is going to compound over time versus like literally constantly resetting with the next thing. And so, yeah, that was the case study.
Yeah, that's awesome, and a great job on all the imagery. You really captured that brand, and it's so yeah, a great point. Like slowing down there and really for them to stick to what they're looking at, which is awesome. Michael, we didn't hear from you yet. What do you think? What are they doing now that they shouldn't be, that they think is working but isn't, and they should stop doing?
There's so much that you guys had said that resonates with me. I'll just tell you guys a story. I woke up today with Dr. Subio. On my phone, of course. I tend to like wake up and just browse my Instagram and see what's up. He has a great post though that came out that he just put out about like, even in aesthetics, like practices are so into chasing trends. And he kind of went through like all of these failed services and procedures that were like really hot at one point, but they kind of fizzled out. And the whole post was just about like, I believe in practicing medicine that it's withstood the test of time. It's proven. And that's how I kind of practice. So I feel like a lot of practices do chase trends. And so from what Robin and Tami have mentioned there, like there's a lot of resonance on that front. I'll tell you, one of the things that I personally see that practices do that are hurting their growth is they're trying to drive more traffic without actually fixing what happens on the other side. And what I mean by that is, practice owners will say to me, we need more leads, we need more ads, we need more visibility. But when somebody actually finds them, the messaging is so unclear. The website is unclear. It doesn't answer questions. There are no strong calls to actions. There's no invitation to get that patient into their funnel, into their
Right.
door. There's oftentimes, Chad, not even a lot of real follow-up either. So instead of tightening all that up, what they do is they just keep on spending more money and more money and more money. And what we're finding here on our side is that the practices that are winning the lead generation and the revenue game, they are not the ones that are spending more. They're just being very, very consistent with their outbound efforts. And so that applies to aspects of like, AI chat integrations, making sure that they have consistent Google reviews, consistent social media content. So, more traffic, it doesn't fix confusion. It just helps to expose it when the right integrated systems are not a part of the equation.
Michael, thank you. And so I have another question I want to ask as a follow-up to that. So you talk about leads, and a lot of practices that I talk to, and I think our team or this group here does, that sometimes they feel stuck, right? They want more leads. Leads is part of the equation, but if they're feeling stuck, they're feeling like things are flat. But where should they focus first before spending more money? You talked about they're in this chase of like, I got to spend more money, but let's talk about some of those other things they can be doing. You hit upon some of those, Mike. Anything else you want to add as far as how that should look today without spending more money? If there was one thing that they should focus on today, what would that be in your mind?
Okay, easy. Get AI chat onto your website and do it now.
Okay.
Guys, if you do not have some type of AI chat integration that is on your website, you are losing and leaking revenue in this very moment in time as we speak. There's revenue that's going out the door. It's really all about speed to lead. And what we've actually found is that the practices that are quicker to engage with leads, and that's what AI chat does, is it creates an instant engagement with your patients. Generally speaking, you're taking that lead from the lead stage to the consult stage around 78% of the time. If it's been longer than 30 minutes, though, the conversion rate drops off by half to 34%. So it needs to really tell you something that the mindset that patients have rather in today's age is that they ain't got time to wait. When we want something, we want it now. And, from a marketing perspective, what we generally find is that for the new patients that are coming into your door, they're generally not doing their homework about your practice between the hours of 9 to 5. More website traffic, more lead generation tends to happen at 5 p.m. to say like 1 a.m. But think about it, like that's when the practice is closed, everyone goes home. No one wants to be really engaging with leads at say 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So this
Right.
is where we talk about the leaked leads opportunities. And so if you don't mind, I'm just going to share my screen here really quickly because we did a really great case study on this for one of our practices, just in terms of the integration of an AI chat tool. And let me just pull this up here for you guys. This is a case study that we had profiled for Dr. Martha Stewart. And I know you all are thinking, this is a real person. Okay. You can see Dr. Martha Stewart, your dermatologist in Louisiana. We had built her website, which you can see down here at the bottom by MyAdvice. But this little AI chat, we call this a virtual assistant. I actually would prefer to think about this as being like a website employee. This is like hiring an employee that you're paying a yearly salary to engage with your leads, but without having to spend that money on that employee, which is a really, really cool thing. Anyway, Dr. Stewart, very word of mouth driven practice, relies heavily on referrals, and she was really okay with that. But things were happening at the practice. You could see that she was adding some additional staff here, adding in a ton more services, and really realized, okay, I need to increase more of my lead flow. So when traditionally, before we had integrated the AI chat, she was averaging around 20 website leads on a monthly basis. The moment that AI was turned on, that lead acceleration had shot up to well over 60 leads per month. But here's the thing, we're not just talking about fluff leads. 55 of that had actually converted into booked appointments. This is what we talk about real revenue, profitable growth, doing more without adding more. And so this is where I would say, again, if they're trying to have some immediate wins and immediate fixes, get that onto your website. Have an agent that is working outside of those normal practice hours.
Good, great idea. Thanks, Mike. Robin, what about you?
So I'm going to totally agree with what Mike said, because honestly, people come to me and be like, we need social. And I'm like, no, you don't. But I'm going to also add a caveat to it, which is probably just going to help lead it into it. If you don't know who you are and you are feeling stuck, have somebody else come look at it. One, you should have AI immediately. AI is not taking anyone's job unless you want to work the hours of 5 p.m. till 1 or 2 in the morning. And it's so funny. He was making me laugh because I did it with a Hilton today, and their AI chat box started answering my questions, and I never made it to Marriott's website. So like I got interrupted because of that. And I was like, perfect. You answered everything, booked. All of our trips are booked. Here we go. And I did it with lashes the other day. So Mike is right about that. If you guys don't have that, you have to do it. And I did it at midnight because I was like, I woke up and I'm like, I need this appointment. No, how I got responded to and how it was set up already in my inbox was great. But the other thing is branding. And I'm pushing this to Tami, because if you do not, and I will constantly, people come to us and say, hey, we're ready to do a press release. I'm like, no, you're not. You don't even know who you are. You don't know what your morals are, your brand values, your education. And so I'm going to say, know who you are. Sit there and do a branding one. I personally did this at year 3. I went to Tami and I said, we need to make our look totally different. Can you help me? And we're a marketing company. And we said, I need outside expertise and someone to sit there and say, and she broke down what our company meant, what our core values were, and put that into our branding. And we're so confident now walking into it. So for sure, if you don't have an AI chatbot, freaking do that like immediately. And then do branding, vice versa. You need to know who you are before that. Then come and see the rest of us, because we don't know who you are yet.
First things first. I love it.
I'm going to split it between my 2 friends over here. That go that way. Don't even come talk to me, because I'm going to send you over to both of them.
That's perfect. Tami, how about you? What did you think about it? If someone's stuck, not going to spend another dime right now, but what should they be kind of focused on, or what they already have, or what should they be giving up to get something right today?
Yeah, so I'm going to spin exactly off of what both Michael and Robin just said. And take a look at your differentiation specifically and how clearly your brand is communicating who you are for. Number one, who do you want to see, why you're different, and why somebody should trust and choose you now. I think when traffics and leads fall flat, practices assume they have like a volume problem. And so they start to buy more ads and do more things and the next shiny object. But very often their problem is actually a differentiation problem. And so if your brand doesn't quickly answer those questions, no amount of traffic is going to fix that. I want to share a super brief case study, if I can, to just illustrate how that has paid off for a practice who actually did that. If you can see my screen, we work with Dr. Mark Murphy.
Not yet.
Oh,
okay. Go ahead and reshare your screen. Sorry.
Let me try it. Reshare. Now can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Mark.
All right. So Dr. Mark Murphy is a facial plastic, but not just in any market. He is in Palm Beach. And so I can't think of any market that would be harder than the discerning clientele that is in Palm Beach, Florida. This is the upper 1%. They can go wherever they want in the world to get their facial plastic surgery. And so when he wanted to get more traffic and to get better leads and to convert more, he realized he had to make his solution to facial plastic surgery look and feel different than everybody else who is in that upper echelon of consideration. And so he very smartly trademarked and named his approach right off the bat. That makes patients who are looking at this feel like this is something they can't get anywhere else. And he truly does have a proprietary approach that involves pre, during, and after surgery that mixes surgical and non-surgical services. And this is marketed everywhere. It is on his website, it's in his ads, it's in his social media. And it's literally at the point of purchase. He's like done these amazing lookbooks that take patients through the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s and shares 60, 70 pages worth of results that are hardbound. But he didn't stop there. Again, just differentiate, change that message. Now this is sitting in high-end residential towers in Palm Beach, in country clubs, and not only there, but in New York and hopefully eventually in Dubai, places where patients are inbound to come and get facial plastic surgery, because again, they can choose anybody that they want. This is not a short-term decision. These patients make their decisions, over time. They're evaluating, different providers. And so he's also done a very smart ebook that is, again, aimed at making him look different, positioning and propping up this Evolve approach and his credentials. And this whole thing has really gone a long way for him to help him get that traffic with the right client. And I think that if you don't do that, that can often lead to more people not converting because you're not attracting the right patient. And I don't think you fix a conversion problem by turning up the volume. You actually fix it by sharpening the message and targeting it to that right person.
It's a critical piece. Thanks, Tami. As we talk about this all the time in our business, which is what we call our ICP. For those that don't know that phrase, that term, it's your ideal customer or client profile. And in that case, you nailed it, right? It's a very bespoke. You talked about the high rises in and around Palm Beach, going for that 1%, understanding Dubai, New York, the travelers, who they're going to come see, and really establishing that brand, which is critical. So very well done. Along those lines, this is an interesting, so you kind of got me thinking, because I hear a lot of misconceptions when it comes to branding and PR and digital marketing. And these misconceptions are out there. I'll give you an example. People like, oh yeah, so I need to do my branding, so I just need to get a logo, right? And like, well, okay, yes, and it's a yes, and yes, you do need a logo, but it's more than that. And we've talked about it a little bit, but let's talk about some of that. Let's talk about the PR misconceptions as well. I think you've hit upon a little bit of that. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Robin, why don't you go first? What are some of the PR misconceptions and social media misconceptions of just I just post, somebody else did this. Here we go. Let's do this. Like, what are some of those misconceptions that really need to be fixed today?
PR immediately is people will not have a boilerplate. They don't have a 30-second pitch. They have none of those things. The biggest misconception with that too is they want to get in Vogue. And I'm like, cool, so do I. Or I want to be on Forbes. And I'm like, those are pay to play. Yeah. And I think there's a huge misconception about that. Unless you have a value that you're going to add and you start being seen as a thought leader in small areas, don't expect to go get published. If you do, that's amazing. But it does take time. It builds doing those relationships. We've gotten a lot of our plastic surgeons in Vogue. So I say that we've gotten some in Forbes, and I'm like super excited about that. I'm like, you guys are crushing it. Here's some great SEO value for your SEO team. Here you go. But in the beginning of the time, it's becoming a thought leader. And I think there needs to be a strategy. It is that elevator pitch that you can tell. It is, what do you want to be known for? And remember, it's easier for us to have a good, strong presence before we have to clean up. Like they say, oh, well, there's no bad such thing as bad PR. Yes, there is. Yes, and I don't want to clean it up. So I would say that. The other is social. They're like, oh, well, my cousin can do it for $500. And I'm like, okay. And they're sitting there and I'm like, let's just go over the jobs that are done in social media, analytics, graphic designer, photographer, videographer, editor, right, copywriter. When you start adding all of those jobs and then you put it as the least amount of budget, you're doomed from the start. Don't ask to go viral. You have to do things to go viral. You can't just use, and it's a great product. You can't just use Botox's, print. Here you go. This is what you post up there and you're going to go viral. It's these misconceptions of what everyone's failed. And I think we're starting to see influencers talk about that. But those are the two ones that PR, no, you're not just going to go out there. It takes time. Just like your education, just like building your practice took time. You need to do it from foundational and all the way ground up. And then social is invest in it. And everyone's like, well, is it 60 days before I can get somebody to come back? And I'm like, I don't know. It depends what type of content we're putting out there. How often, what platforms are we using it? So it's really understanding it and understanding the work that goes into it.
You hit upon a few things that I think are critical, right? Is that consistency. And also you just don't know. Sometimes you're like, this post is going to be the viral one, and it falls flat. And another time they can hit it and you're like, yeah, that was okay. And for some reason that one takes off. There's, it's odd, right? I mean, if we had a crystal ball into all the reasons, we, anyway,
The
we'd be
dumb ones that
millionaires.
the
Yeah.
ones I shoot with my phone in my car that are so authentic with no makeup on are the ones that go viral, like on my own. And it's the ones we get leads from because people want to see authenticity. It's the ones that I'm like, look what we did. We put all this work together. We figured out a whole dance and everything. And I'm like, man, thanks for the 20 people who liked it. That did not do anything for us. So I think it's really knowing who you are, what you feel, and getting to identify that. And I'm super happy. And we talked about what, Tami's done with branding. She asked me, like, who are you? What is your brand? Do you know who you are? Now, don't go and do those things out on social either. So knowing how I'm going to respond in a press release to people, how I'm going to do social media is extremely important. And it is not a cousin that can do that anymore. The analytics, the world, how it's gotten harder and harder. You can't go viral as easy. And I really want practices to understand that it takes a lot of work and it's consistent. You don't go to one CrossFit class and have abs. You immediately cannot do the same thing with one social post.
Yeah. Thank you. Words of wisdom for sure. Tami, how about you? I talked about one of the misconceptions, certainly Michael and I hear all the time, which is, I got my logo. Like, yay. So what other misconceptions along with that do you hear often in the branding world?
So for me personally, with my branding hat on, I kind of feel the biggest misconception about there is that branding is something like you do once, right? And rather than a discipline that you actually commit to. People, yes, you hear that, branding is more than just a logo. But then they'll show up and they'll treat it like a one-time exercise or something that you have to do before you launch your website, and not something that's long-term. And so finality, I think, is the misconception in that. I'm going to bounce out here and share my screen again, because this, I think,
Sure.
will move forward really well for everybody. So I happen to be an Apple evangelist. All of us here at Pinpoint are. And I happen to be old enough to remember these campaigns because this is how Apple showed up like 30 years ago, right? Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. I remember the Think Different campaign. This is their branding then. And certainly Apple's evolved that over time, but who they are at their core, they tinker with this. Simplicity is still ultimately sophistication for them, but it is evolved and executed in different ways, and how they show up with their brand. Think Differently is also part of their brand. So they're continually evolving their core. Not only that, but they're continually working on where it shows up everywhere in the process. So walk with me here. If I were purchasing an iMac for myself and I was attracted to Apple online because of their, beautiful site and their marketing in the digital sphere, which is where most people come in contact with brands first. And then I went into their stores, and instead of looking like this, they look like the chaos of a Best Buy or a, Circuit City. And all the employees were, high school kids and had no knowledge. And the packaging was plastic clamshell and not soft touch. I mean, you would immediately have a disconnect at a level of the brand, and it would feel very off put to you. And so I love showing case studies like that with practices, with taking a look at best case scenarios with brands that are, out there in the universe and iconic, and then bringing it back to the practice level and showing how mid-sized and small business practices are actually executing the same thing, and how you're continually working to evolve and refine your brand. I'll bring that to life with a case study with Pure, who is a practice we work with in Idaho. very successful practice. The owner founder is a keynote speaker for Allergan. They have 3 locations. And 3 years ago, they came to us just to tinker with branding because they felt like it was off for them. They had a luxury appeal and a style and a panache of delivering services that was not matched online. So, certainly we can, zhuzh up a brand all day long, colors and textures and photos and all the things, and then deliver that so the website can be executed with that look and feel and the voice that really speaks to that, and as well as social media, and also how it looks when the patient is actually a paying patient and gets things like newsletters and education from the practice. But they didn't stop there. So literally the next year, they hired Terry Ross, great practice consultant, changed the whole dynamic of how they run their consultations and their sales process. So still working on this brand, how they do intake and treatment planning and calendar planning, so that patient now turns into a life cycle patient instead of a transactional patient, and purchases things on a recurring revenue basis, even down to like their super bill. I mean, this is how granular they got in terms of weaving the brand everywhere through that patient experience. But they didn't stop there. The next year, this year, they brought on Zenoti in their practice as a better efficiency and management tool for them. And that enabled them to then tinker with their membership, because Zenoti has a platform that allows them to deliver more bells and whistles in the membership. And so they totally revamped how the membership looked, how it talked, who it was aimed at, how it was sold in the practice, how the value proposition was presented to patients, how it was marketed, both in email, at the point of purchase, and on social media, and even what the patients actually got when they became members. And so it's just a really great case study to say branding is an ongoing commitment to consistency, to clarity, and to restraint, right? And the best brands grow from diligent, ongoing evolution, like Apple, by staying true to the core, but then evolving it and executing it everywhere.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that word restraint, I think we don't use that enough. Everything else you said is, of course, on target. It's interesting you talk about the ongoing effect and being able to take a step back and look at some things. I was at the Inc. 5000 conference a couple years ago, and one of the keynote speakers was Ron Shaich, who CEO, founder of Panera, and listening to this, really a genius. He's had a lot of businesses, and he's a billionaire. But he said if a business is not looking at their core and doing a pivot every 4 to 5 years in what they're doing, they're going to fall behind. And I've never forgotten that. And as I look back at even our business, sometimes directly we were very intentional. Other times the market was dictating changes, and we were just making sure that we were trying to stay ahead of where the market was going. And I went back and looked at our company history over the past 25 plus years, and sure enough, every 4 to 5 years we were making these changes. Now, it didn't mean we got away from who we were as a core, but the way that we presented, the way that we adjusted, because the market's changed, the way that people consume data or information or want things is changing. The way that the delivery happens is different. I mean, you have to realize, when I got started in this space in the late 90s, the iPhone didn't exist. Social media didn't exist. Google was in a garage when I got started. So as we think about all these evolutions, it's amazing. ChatGPT didn't exist until a few years ago. I remember my high school son coming home one afternoon. He's like, "Dad, you're never going to believe this. I got this new tool that writes my essays for me." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing." And that was like ChatGPT 1.0, right? And this was before the schools found out and started blocking it. But again, this is the evolution. You think where we're at right now, we're on version 5.2, and all of these different models have come out. So we have to be constantly changing and looking at what matters to us and how do we reach the people in the way that they want to be reached. And then, that really plays into it. Michael, we need to hear from you as well on this, because I think this is an important one on the misconceptions within digital marketing. And I know you could probably take an hour on this, but why don't you talk about some of the big ones that you see and how you'd like to address those?
the themes that I heard from both Robin and Tami is knowing it's marketing. It's a process. It's
Mhm.
not an event. I one of the biggest misconceptions that I see is that practice owners they expect transactional results, but without setting a right foundation. In other words, like everyone's very eager to get to the finish line, get patients in the door, get the leads, but not be patient enough to actually build out their infrastructure. So, just how Robin was talking about how, you need to build out a good social media presence. And it's funny, Robin, one note that you had mentioned is, I always see these aspirational aha moments when people are sitting in their cars. And I'm like, I never have those great thoughts when I'm driving and pulling off. So,
I
but
think it's living in Miami and sitting in traffic. You were like,
yeah,
oh,
I'm like, wow. I'm like, I guess if my self-actualization, I need to start driving more. But how Tami talked about, evolving a brand and how a brand is something that's a flexible thing that should change as your practice grows. What you put in with consistency with your online marketing strategy for lead generation is really no different. One of the things that kind of an analogy that I'll talk to practice owners and say, hey, imagine me coming to see you as a patient, and I want you to make me look better. I want you to inject my face, but I smoke and I drink and I party my face off all the time, and I eat like crap and I don't exercise, but yet you're going to be the person that's just going to magically make this thing appear for me, right? Make me better. And I'm sure for those of you who are practitioners, watching this webinar, you're probably thinking, my name is not Jesus Christ. Like, if we want good results, to optimize results well, we need to set the right foundation. And it's really being patient enough to be able to do that and to do it well and commit to doing it. We see practices that get plenty of leads, but yet they still feel frustrated. And it's not because marketing has failed, but it's because that nothing happens, again, after the lead comes in. Responses are very slow. There's no follow-up system in place. I was just talking to a practice earlier this week, and I'm like, well, how are you tracking your lead flow? And they just do it on an Excel spreadsheet. And they have their staff do that too, which means that there's no measurement of improvement. There's no tracking to actually understand, to know what's working. And so when practices start to operate that way, marketing starts to feel very random. It feels stressful. But again, marketing, it's not magic. It's having good consistency, and it's being patient enough to be able to build that out over the course of time. So when all those systems work, from great social media, good PR, good branding, an efficacious website that converts efficiently, your Google strategy is working well, consistent reviews, good strong content, that's really where the magic happens. And I will just add one more thing to this, is that this is where we find compounding results. You
Yeah,
have to build
very
the
much.
infrastructure now, so that way you can start to build that flywheel effect of just faster movement, faster movement, faster movement as time goes by and as it progresses.
Michael, thank you. And we understand, the three of us, that the world we're talking about is not your world. We understand that if you're listening, you're coming at this saying, Chad and Robin and Tami, Michael, I know medicine. I've been to these courses. I know how to inject. I know how to do lasers. I know how to do surgeries. I know how to do all these things. And so this is foreign to me. And that's what we're here. We recognize that it is. And so we're trying to share some of these ideas. And so as we talk about this, you might be thinking, oh, so and so in my office, that person is terrible. Now, that might be true. That might be true. And they might have, borrowing from a Jim Collins phrase of he says, do you have the right person on the bus, or the right person on the right seat on the bus? But first, do you have the right system in place? If you're still on spreadsheets and you don't have a real way to create accountability within your team, where they know what the expectation is, how quickly they follow up, who did the follow up, how they followed up, and you don't have a standardization around that, you have a broken system. You don't have a people problem, you have a system problem. And until you can fix the system, you're always going to think you have a people problem, because you've never set your team up to be successful. But when you get the right systems in place from A to Z and the way that things work, suddenly it becomes clear. You can add clarity to your practice. I'm going to go back to the thing that Robin said at the very beginning, because in my mind, this is still the most important part. Do you know who you are? Do you have a vision for who you are? Do you have a vision for where you're going? It's that North Star, so that you know where you're going. And then Tami added to that. She said very clearly, Go at the pace for that. Don't suddenly speed up thinking you have to go this way and that way because you went to some weekend conference and somebody talked about this new thing and you're like, we need to do that. And what we hear from practices is, oh, the owner went to another meeting and now we got the new flavor of the month and we'll see if this lasts for the next 2 weeks, right? And that goes on, and then the employees know that the enthusiasm around that's going to last 2 to 3 weeks, and then it's going to die. There's zero follow up around that. So what patterns have you unintentionally set? And now that the team kind of knows, oh, here's the next thing, and they haven't really bought into it because they feel like it's really not in the direction and the direction gets lost. So again, go back to that foundation and then get the system that says, this is how we're going to do it and this is the way we're going. And now we're all going to row together. And when you get to that point where we're consistent, we're doing this, you start to see things move. And Michael talked about that flywheel. And yes, getting it that first revolution is hard. It is not easy. What you're doing is so difficult. You're wearing so many hats within a practice, right? You might even be taking out the trash. But yes, you're answering emails, you're answering phone calls, you're trying to set up these SOPs. You have, what software should I be using? What about my marketing? What about my PR? What about my branding? What about this employee problem? I had this issue over here, and boom, 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 and I need to do all these things, and I've got billing, and I've got payroll, and I have an AR that's growing and my accountant wants my time. And guess what? The state just changed the regulations. And how do I make sure I'm compliant? And now another rep wanted to come in and talk to me. It feels heavy. If you do not have a plan and have boundaries around where you're going, it can feel overwhelming. And that becomes discouraging. And so we get that. All right. Last thing, and I want to open it up to some questions for the group. We're still at the beginning, very much, of the 2026 year. Practices that are here are serious about their growth. They're serious about wanting to do the right things. I'd love to hear from each of you. What's one or two things that you would say focus on this year that's going to help? This will help you be successful if you do this. Robin, let's start with you.
I was like, of course you had to start with me. First thing I would do in 2026, diversify your marketing strategy, meaning don't just go into one alley or one thought. Test for 90 days, get the results back, and then take that and move on. You keep saying that things are changing, and every 4 to 5 years we need to reinvent ourselves, but honestly things are changing. Since COVID, it's like we've all lived a couple decades, and things are changing really fast. And so
Yes.
Something that I tell you today, by June will be completely different. So take 90-day sprints, if we want to call them that, and really work on honing in, getting to know who you are, putting a strand, and make sure you're diversifying it. Don't stick to one platform, because I think we all were here as TikTok came and then it left and then it came back and we were like, what is happening? I felt like I was riding the bipolar express. Same with your PR strategy. Put out one press release. Let's see how it does. Get to know it. Okay, hey, that tone of voice, that tone of change, this is what happened. Let's test it and have other people hold you accountable. Don't sit there and make your numbers look how you want it to. Be very transparent and be like, hey, did this really work? Or was it a mess up? And then change from there. I think that's really important in 2026, but also get out there, because if you're not out there marketing, and I know everyone's watching the Instagram videos right now, and it's like, is this my education? These plaques? Is this what's driving people into my practice? No, it's this stupid dance. Unfortunately, you do have to be everywhere. And as a business owner, my heart feels for you, because I had to get from behind the camera into in front of the camera. And the same thing has to happen with you guys. And so I'd say get out there, put yourself out there. It will immediately change your business, but it will also help you know who you are.
Wonderful advice. Thank you. Michael, let's go with you next.
Yeah, I 100% agree on marketing diversification. It's important to make sure that you're visible on many different platforms. Now, with that being said, with diversification, let me just talk more specifically and hone in on digital marketing strategies. This is where you are going to lose when you have diversification. What I mean is your marketing, your digital strategy is siloed. You have your website that was built on Squarespace over here, and you have your review system that might be over here, And then,
Yeah.
we have just, a blog that we'll maybe add once in a while. All that creates digital strategy noise, which reduces your visibility. And with less visibility comes less lead flow. With less lead flow comes less revenue. And that leads to the second point, as to where I would say just you need to have a new mindset as to how you're looking at your marketing strategy online. Vanity metrics are not going to win the day in terms of how it's going to help you to grow your practice. If you're obsessed over things like your rankings on Google, or how long somebody spent on your website for, or what the bounce rate is, you're not focused on the right things, which is, how is this attributing to return on investment? How is this making my practice to grow much more profitably? So understand that all of these things are done with the intention of making the bottom line bigger. So focusing on that and making sure, again, marketing digital strategies are no longer siloed, but they're together. But I do agree, it's also important to make sure that you're balancing your visibility among other channels beyond digital.
Perfect. And Tami, how about you?
Yeah, I think one of the highest payoff activities that a practice could do in the next 90 days. I mean, this helps you to see miscues and clarity. It helps you to see the gaps in your differentiation, and to also kind of prioritize what to do and where to go next, is to actually do and take the time to do a comprehensive forensic brand audit. We do these for practices when they come to us, especially those practices that are like maybe 10 years or 15 years into their career. And they might be, going through either a remodel or a move to, get more square footage, or a better location. And so they think, the time is right now to tinker with my brand. And I feel like it's off kilter, right? I'm 10 years into my career. I've outgrown it. I've grown into a new I'm a different person than I was, or I might have cut corners, 10 years ago, because either a budget, or I didn't know what I didn't know. And so they know they have a problem, and they feel like the brand is out of joint, especially, when you hire a new team, and that team might be trained on protocols and procedures, but not necessarily on who you are and what your brand is. And so they feel like it's all over the place. And we literally do. We sit down and say, okay, send us a care package, digital and print. And we want to put all the things together: what you look like on your site, on your social media, on your review sites. What do your voice messages sound like? What does your team wear? What do they look like? What does your practice look like? What does your consultation materials look like? How about your events? What about your internal and external marketing? And when you pull those all together and put them in one place, holy cow, the disparity really becomes evident. It's like playing a game of telephone, right? If things look different over here than there, things are missaid, things are inaccurate. And so it really gives you a place to say, holy cow, this has to be changed first. This, should be changed second. This should be changed third. It gives you a knock list and a way to see what you need to rein in. So I would say that's a great thing to do in the next 90 days.
Love it. And I love this idea of these sprints that you were talking about, Robin and Tami. Perfect. So kind of look at some questions. If the audience has some additional questions, great. I've got a couple more kind of while we're waiting for any questions that our group here has today. But this is one that I hear on a regular basis. What percentage of revenue should be spent on marketing, PR, and branding? And let's say it's for a newer practice, like a practice that's within its first, call it 2 to 5 years of existence. Who wants to go first?
I'll take that.
Okay.
I would say my answer to that is really, you have to go back to, what are your goals? What are your growth goals?
Yeah.
Generally, when I talk to practices, I see that they kind of fall within one of two buckets. Those that really want to dominate their market, they see marketing as being an investment. Generally speaking, where those practices are spending, it's about 10 to 12% of what their gross revenue is, and how they're reinvesting that back into marketing. How you divide that up, again, that I would say it goes back to, what is your strategy? Are you really trying to drive much more national exposure? Well, that's probably where, you would want to be working with Robin to help you with that. Or are you struggling with your messaging and that's your biggest priority? Yeah, I mean, that's where Tami's team can come into play. Or if it's more, real like lead generation, again, that might be my advice. So again, it just depends on really what your goals are, but I think the mindset is there. Most of the practices that I tend to come into contact with, though, that it's what I would call more sustainable growth. They're looking at the long game. Maybe marketing for them, it still feels like a cost, but generally speaking, though, those percentages are about 4 to 6% of what you're reinvesting back into marketing. The most expensive decision that you can make is to not have any line item on your budget every single month for marketing reinvestment. If we feel like we're just going to grow this through word of mouth, or because we just bought this new device and people are naturally just going to come in, folks, that is a fallacy. That is a fast train to failure. So it's important to be nurturing and feeding your marketing strategy, however that's going to best align with your goals.
Fast train to failure, Mike. I'm gonna steal that line. I like that. Thank you. Robin, go ahead.
I'm going to go with, if you're just trying to make it, it's going to be that 4 to 6, because you have to just have brand awareness.
Yes.
If you're in that one that you're going to go guns blazing in, and this can be in different parts. It could be that you're looking to expand into another location, or you're looking for private equity to come and buy you. This would be the time to double down and start investing, because a lot of you are thinking about, private equity coming 5 years from now, or you're looking at selling your practice to other people, or you're bringing in new doctors or nurses. If you're doing that, you need to be in that 12 to 15%, because you need to hedge out the market. You need to be able to buy up more space and diversify what you're spending. Google reviews are going to be super important. AI chatbots are going to be important. You want to look at your website, not just you. And again, I'm so happy Mike said this, not on Squarespace. We're already seeing so many sites get shut down. You're going to really want to know what your branding is. If you're the current face and you're on every single thing and you're looking at, hey, I'm going to retire soon, you need to start getting your team in there. It needs to start looking more neutral. If you're the only one on social and it is the Robin show, well, the Robin show is not sustainable if Robin wants to retire or go to Italy. That's not sustainable. So really diversifying where you're spending your money is extremely important. And also understand you're not just competing against other practices. And I do really want to say this. Unfortunately, you're competing against everybody out there now. You're talking about peptides, and so is the guy at the gym who is a personal trainer. So it is no longer just longevity and plastics and all of this. You're competing against the girl, because there is only so much scroll time on your phone now.
Yes.
So understand that more and more people are hitting the market, and it's not just your competition of a practice. It's other people going to find their information. And an 18-year-old selling, skincare cream knows way more than this doctor who's ever done anything in social media in everyone's eyes. So if you want to spend, you need to be spending in the right areas. You need to make sure your branding is on point, your Google reviews are on point, that you're getting the message out and you're spending it strategically.
Yeah, thanks, Robin. All right, Tami, in our last minute here before we wrap up at the top of the hour, why don't you go ahead and take us home? Bring us home.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to just go ahead and agree there with Robin. And, when you're at startup, I think the budget is, definitely going to be more in that 12 to 15%. And how you divide your budget remains dynamic, right? So you might need more branding and website development in that phase, and then it shifts more to social media and other venues later. So I just think you need to remain dynamic depending on what you need. And I agree also, I think 10% of the budget for marketing, is the autopilot today. It's not lower than that. I think that's not going to get you to where you want to be, as a practice. So yeah, I would second all of that.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you to all of you for the wisdom you have shared today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us. We know that your time is limited. So being able to get you on to this webinar is with a huge debt of gratitude. Thank you. And to all of our listeners that took time out of your day to join us as well, whether you are here live or listening later, we appreciate you. We wish you the best. We want you to be successful, and we hope that some of the things that we have shared do that. As we send out the recording later on, we'll include the contact information for Tami and Robin and Michael. If you have additional questions or you'd like to understand more about what each of them has to offer, we encourage you to reach out to them. They're here to help you. They have years of wisdom in this space, years of experience. They know how this works. They know this space. And I think that's another critical piece that all of you bring into this is this isn't where, hey, we know plumbing and now we think we know aesthetics. No, you know aesthetics and it's a very different market. So again, thanks to all of you. We wish you the best. Let's make this year the best ever for everybody. And we hope to see you at upcoming conference. If we do, please come say hello in person. We'd love to meet you. And with that, we'll talk to you down the road. Thanks, everybody. Bye
Bye,
now.
everyone.
Bye.